the passing there that you had your say. Of course you did when you owned Crystal Palace. You had your say on how the Crystal Palace shirt would look. Yeah. There's a great one from another Simon who loves the show. Thanks, mate. He says, ask Simon, Jim, did he mean to release a Crystal Palace shirt? Do you remember the one that had Crystal spelled incorrectly on it? Was that a nod to the past, or was that a great business idea that Simon had at the time?
I don't remember that.
Crystal was misspelled. What, did you go with an I as opposed to a Y?
I don't remember that at all.
Anyway, not to worry about that. You're not having that flag. You're not having that shirt. That is the message we have got from you in huge numbers this morning. We're going to talk boxing from 12 noon onwards from the diminutive Spencer Oliver's point of view. Incidentally, I saw about your podcast.
I'm pretty sure that I didn't misspell it. I mean, if Theo Bafitas had his way at Millwall, he would have called it Crippled Alice on the back of the shirt. But I'm pretty sure we didn't misspell it.
Actually, a bit of breaking news on this. Where the other side of the glass tell me that no, you'd gone by then. 2012, you'd gone. Hadn't you?
There you go.
All right. So
outrageously unfair observation.
I'm afraid
I don't make those kind of mistakes.
The other Simon who sent in
I just signed Adi Akinbaye instead.
is saying it was down to this Simon. It wasn't. It wasn't. Simon had gone by then.
Take it back.
So you can take it right back. Spencer Oliver will join us from 12 onwards, and we will talk boxing. The back of the Times this morning, Simon.
Yeah.
Chelsea fans warn owners of toxicity. Supporters fear club is becoming a laughing stock. So what is this all about? In a strongly worded letter, Chelsea fans, in the form of the Chelsea Supporters Trust, they have warned owners Todd Boehly and Behdad Eghbali that a lack of direction at the club could lead to, quotes, irreversible toxicity amongst fans, with the threat of, quotes, more impactful forms of protest being put on the table. So you have to ask yourself, well, why are they so offended? We would like to highlight and address some serious supporter concerns, they say, and the disconnection felt by fans towards the majority of the team, the manager, the club ownership and the board. The current mood among supporters is critically low and cannot be ignored. The feeling is that the club has become a laughingstock, both on and off the pitch, and that feeling is growing. So, Todd Boehly, Behdad Eghbali, the men at the top, the Americans who run the club now, it's their money, they bought it from Abramovich. So why have they become so unpopular, it would seem? Now, Boehly is a man who doesn't say very much. Simon and I met him in Qatar. We're fine with that. Although he certainly has gone a bit cool towards coming to us maybe with information or whatever, as he might have done in the past. He did speak not that long ago at a business convention, I think it was over in the US, and he was talking about maybe lessons that he'd learned since taking over the club.
It's such a global sport. And unlike in the US, there's no unions. So there's a market for top players in every country in the world. So I think there's a lot that we've learned about the different markets, the global aspect of it all. And as you said, the fans are demanding, and they want to win. And we get that. We want to win. I think our view, though, was that this is a long-term project, and we're committed to the long term, and we very much believe that we're going to figure it out. We've got the best league in the world. We've got what I think is, the top city in the world, and we've got an unbelievable location in the top city in the world.
So Todd Boehly is saying there that, yeah, give us time, and it is a long-term project, but we will figure it out. But it seems that Todd and Behdad Eghbali better figure it out sooner than later, because the Chelsea Supporters Trust say in this message to the owners, unless the situation improves, this seems likely to manifest itself in more targeted chanting, especially at televised games, and quite possibly more organised, overt and impactful forms of protest by some sections of the fan base. Before I come to you, and judging by what I'm hearing from you, I get a rough idea of what you think of this. We asked the vice chair of the Chelsea Supporters Trust, a man by the name of Dom Rosso, I think his name is, to come and join us. He was going to, but then couldn't. And then we were put on to somebody else, and somebody else, and somebody else from the Chelsea Supporters Trust, none of whom are able to come and join us on air. What that tells us,
it's all mouth and trousers.
You can make up your own minds about it. So what do you make of this? Because certainly the wording is strong. Should the ownership be bothered?
Not really. What should be behind it? A sort of dun, 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 dun. Oh, they got together with the Man United Supporters Trust and got get everyone in the Last Chance Saloon, which means precisely nothing. I mean, look, we've seen this. You're seeing it in the papers today. Man City fans are unhappy because the club have put a season ticket rise on their fans. So all of this regeneration, this wonderful stuff that these owners have done for these football clubs, as long as it doesn't cost us any money, we'll be all right with it. Look, 2 years ago,
City are winning.
And that's fine. And Chelsea are going for a period where they're not. If they want back, apparently in this ridiculous letter that they wrote, which will mean nothing, it would be filed under miscellaneous after wiped on a certain part of my anatomy if I was the chairman of Chelsea, it suggests that they would prefer to go back to the 1980s. Oh, you would you? You'd rather go back to playing in the second division as it was. You'd rather go back to the tatty state of Stamford Bridge. You've got a period in time, 2 years after your Daddy Warbucks owner has been sanctioned for being a cohort of Vladimir Putin. You now have an American ownership model which is not working very well at the moment, has made some serious mistakes and missteps and some judgments, cost themselves an inordinate amount of money to do so. So their crime is they've spent £1 billion to make some mistakes. They've got to a cup final this season. They can still finish in the higher echelons of the Premier League, and they can possibly get to an FA Cup final, albeit that pathway is going to be difficult because of the opposition they're playing against. And you now think that you can write a letter to tell everybody how toxic it is because the club that you thought was going to go out of existence 2 years ago is now something that you're not quite happy with. I mean, I get the point where you've got fans and you've got supporters. And I get the point, you've got to give people something to support. But the idea that you can write letters like this is the kind of thinking which has now propelled us into some sort of political decision around a fan-led review that says that we need independent regulation to strangle the bloody game that's been so successful, with a few isolated exceptions. I think it's ridiculous. I think you've got to get the balance right. Everybody that owns a football club respects the fans. They understand the fans that want to see their team winning, and they understand to some extent that it's their job to acknowledge their responsibility for a community asset. But pack it in with this nonsense about what you think you're entitled to and how you think you're entitled to it.
What, you think the fans should shut their traps?
I think there should be a voice. I think there should be a balance between
They've got a voice.
I think there should be a balance between, and the club have already responded and said we're quite happy to have a fan advisory board. I mean, Christ knows what that represents. And ultimately, we're quite happy to engage with the fans on a level and keep them communicated with. And that's the modern generation of football club owners, because they represent and understand the values. But pack it in with your ridiculous entitlement of what you think you're entitled to have.
The Trust got a reply from this gentleman, Chris Jurasek, who's Chelsea's chief executive officer.
Which is what I referred to.
Yeah, and he's saying, without question, we want to ensure we engage with our fans regularly to provide them with clear lines of communication and a significant level of transparency. Well, he's going to have to go more than that, though. Well, okay. Because they're not happy.
They're not happy, and I understand they're not happy because their team isn't performing very well on the pitch. And they're also complaining that apparently that Boehly and his cohorts had said that we will exhaust all commercial revenues before we come to you for any money or increases. And some would suggest that maybe that they have done that. They have wrung every single commercial penny they can out of a side that isn't performing on the pitch right now, so can't give them commercial endorsements and opportunities in Europe. And they can take that blame. They can take their medicine. They're going to take their medicine. They're going to, and the idea that Chelsea have spent £1 billion and other clubs ridicule people. Well, Tottenham and Liverpool took the furlough scheme during COVID, and other football clubs ridiculed them for that. The bottom line is your team isn't performing very well, and it needs to perform better. And you think the ownership model doesn't know that? They're the ones that spent £2.5 billion on the bloody thing.
So are supporters like these Chelsea fans to Todd Boehly, and are supporters to you just customers?
No, not at all. Not at all. They're a very, very valuable part of the entire fabric of a football club. They are the living, breathing heartbeat of a football club.
All right, but this is claptrap from them, you say?
I think they're overreaching. I think they're saucy sods. It's one thing having a difficult period of time. It's another thing pushing the envelope out with a sense of entitlement, writing manifestos that you think you're entitled to deliver upon football clubs that are owned by other people because you've got an emotional ownership of it, and you've been led to believe that because fan-led reviews are suddenly being adopted as the blueprint for football, that subsequently now you're in the corridors of power about changing the direction. And when you're asked to put any money in, because at the centre of it they reference, which is part of their irritation, it would seem, they've had the audacity to put prices up. Oh no! As long as everyone else is paying for it and not you. Get the balance right.
Is it all that constructive, saying you would wipe something like this in a part of your anatomy?
Well, that's how I feel about it. I think it's disdainful. I have disdain for it. I can't take these sort of people, these activists, seriously. They make their life's work to be busy sods creating agendas about what they think they're entitled to. And I do believe fans should have a voice. I do believe clubs should.
Of course they do.
I do believe
owners need to be held to account.
And of course they should. Of course they should, but there's ways to do it.
That's what this is.
You're threatening people with a toxic atmosphere. You're threatening people with covert. What does that mean then? What are you going to do then? Are you all going to systematically bend over and pull a Mooney to the cameras? Is that what that means then? Big deal. And then what are you going to do when suddenly the team starts winning? Go, oh, it's not so toxic anymore. Oh, come on.
You finished?
Come on, be better.
You finished?
Well, I've got more, but I'm assuming that we're running out of time.
This Chelsea toxicity. Chelsea fans, do you buy into what the Chelsea Supporters Trust is saying here to Boehly and Iqbali? That you're just not having it any longer. Irreversible toxicity amongst the fans with the threat of more impactful forms of protest being put on the table. So after the international break, on the 30th of this month, Chelsea at home to Burnley. Will we see these protests manifest themselves?